3. Hi everybody, we're back and I hope we're about to finish this painting up today. We're just going to put some final touches on it, and before we start on that though, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The paper, I think I've talked about it but I'm not sure, so this is the paper that I'm using right now. It's 100% cotton. It comes in a pad. You just tear out the sheet and then I tape it down. It's 140 pounds, so it definitely needs to be taped down, and it's the rough texture, which I really like. So that's the paper I'm using, and I got some new paints today, and the Van Gogh, so far in the little half pans or full pans, I've not been able to find the just single ones that you can buy. So I bought the tubes, and I think that they did really well pouring in. There's no shrinkage, and I did that this morning, and it's been about probably 6-8 hours now, and they're looking really good. This is just a regular one, and then this is from the tubes. And these little pans are reusable. They fit into the little cases, and I think I paid about 79 cents a piece for them. So okay, and I've set up a little kit. I've been waiting to get this in and put my Flamingo colors in here, which makes it really nice because it's just compact and it's only what I'm using instead of like the whole kit that this is the Van Gogh botanical set, and so I don't want to rebuy that every single time I need a certain color back or whatever. Now this is Van Gogh. This is the Winsor Newton Opera Rose, and this is the Sennelier Orange. And then this is Van Gogh Permanent Red Dark, and this is the Lemon Yellow. So, okay, I think we're going to get started. And I'm going to make some space here. So, I think I'm going to work a little bit on his cheek and start defining this, and just defining a few feathers in here. That's what I have left on that. And I'm going to be using my favorite brush, my Billy Shoal, size 6. It's extra fine for watercolor, so I like that. I'm going to be using some of the Opera Rose and some of the Sennelier Orange, and probably a little bit of the Permanent Red, because I want to darken this up a little bit. Not too orangey. We're going to go in and start really defining the feather area now. We've got I think about 4 coats of different washes over it, and so we're at this point. It's a little darker than I want, so I'm just going to wet my brush a little bit. And okay. So, one right here. Sometimes I just use, paint the full strength instead of washing it down at this point. That over here a little. I think I've gotten it a little darker than what I wanted. Trying to find my paper paper. Here we go. It's kind of used, but it'll work. I don't want it to be quite so bold right there. Okay. A little bit of the purple in it. Lighten that up just a tiny bit. So just go in and just kind of define your feathers a little at this point. Right in here. A little orange. I'm just going to soften it down a tiny bit, make it quite so bold. Back that off. Okay. Just use, I mean, this is, at this point it's kind of your preference what you want to make his feathers look like. I'll go in with some of this yellow. And I'm using the new one that I put in that's not completely dry yet because I like this color. We're in here. Okay, let me get a little more of that out. Let's work on his cheek area a little bit, and up in here. Now I'm going to use some of my lemon. It's a little bit brighter. It's not all the same color. I'm not going to do anything that's like super wet right now. I think the wash parts are over at this point. Oops. Okay. It was strong. That's a little more orange than what I really want, but I'm going to let that dry, and then what I'm going to do is just put the opera rose completely over it because it's really vibrant and it really just makes it pop when I get to that point. This is just almost straight opera rose right here. I'm going to go in with a little of this darker red for the shadow. It'll just kind of bleed out into, probably want to hit that a little bit. That's real orange. Okay, but I mean, you can see how the opera rose just really makes it pop. Probably don't want a super strong line here, so I'm just gonna wet this a little bit coming out here. Nice cheek. We still want this highlight right in this area. And then by the eye, just a little definition of where the curve would be. And just kind of dab that a little bit and let it kind of bleed out into the other area. Probably have to Get that up a little bit. This is fine to bring this in here. I just lightly touch it if I want to move and spread out, but I don't want it to really, I don't really want it to make like any big defined movement there. Orange. The Sunler orange is really intense. If you grab it full strength and put it on your paper, what I did right there, that's what happens. It's real strong. That's the thing with the Van Gogh paints. They are less pigment intensive. They're considered a step above the student grade, and they're certainly not, they don't have as much pigment as the Sennelier do. But on the other hand, that's fine with me just because I like the single pigment, and I know what I'm going to put on my paper is going to be what I want. It's not going to get muddy and ruin my painting. And I like to do lots of washes, so I mean that really works for me too, obviously. Okay. Probably define this a little bit here. Just checking to make sure that was dry. I want that a little darker down here. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that water because I had it pretty wet. And I'm mixing the Sennelier orange and the Opera Rose right now for this area. And up here I'm just going to leave the highlight. It's still probably not as intense as I want it. Okay, and then just let it kind of spread around a little. I'm going to come back in here probably and work that up a little bit more once it's a little drier. Put some Opera Rose right in here because I definitely want this darkened up. And just kind of pat it a little bit and move it, but still keep the highlighted area here that we kind of want going on. Let it kind of blend together. And I'm going to intensify this with some of the lemon yellow. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And make probably a hard kind of line right there, because this is the area that I just want to really be bright, maybe like sunlight or the impression of sunlight. It really makes it pop. And I'm not going to blend that out too much. I'm just going to leave it real strong there. And then I'm going to splatter over it once it's a little bit drier. And I think I'll put a little bit up in here. And then I think the splatters will take care of the rest of that. Dab that up a little bit. Oops. Okay. And now I'm going to work on it. Well, actually, I think I'm going to define this feather a little here. And I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to go, it's still going to be a Billy Shoal, but this is the size 2. Just work a little smaller for definition here on these little feathers. Okay. Mix a little of the darker red in that. I love these brushes. Okay, and I'm going to put just a little bit of purple in this feather that's underneath here, just lightly. Just shadow, make it like a shadow there. And then we'll define this just a little more here. Okay. I do a lot of padding stuff with my water. It just doesn't make like a hard straight line, or you know, like I painted that line. It kind of softens it up and, you know, leaves like a little colorful areas in it, which I like. And again, I'll break this up with just a little. Okay. And I want this down here a little bit. I'll put some orange in that. Got carried away with the orange, I think. Okay. Just kind of again, that was just clear water, and I'm just kind of breaking up the strong line that I made. I want it just to make the impression of a feather, but not really be a painted feather. If you let it set for just a couple seconds like that, you can see it starts to just almost dry up a little bit and make a hard line, which I like. Put a little bit of yellow over here. Get some of that out. There. I think we've got this going pretty nicely here. And I want to define this just a little bit of the yellow, and I think I'm going to use this. I think this is called, I'll put it in the comments below because I can't think of what it's called right now. It starts with a G. All I can think of is grayish, which is a pink color, household pink color. So that's not what I'm looking for, really. Let's pull this down in here a little bit. Okay. And I think that we're about done on that part of it, except I'll pop some straight opera rose right here. Brighten it up a bit. I'm ready to put a little more right in here. A little bit too much water there. And I'm just using straight Opera Rose at this point. I said we were going to come back in here and touch this up, and this is, I mean, it's still damp, which is fine because it'll help it, you know, run a little bit, but I just want to intensify the color there now. This is just straight water that I'm dabbing around on here with. Kind of like that line, so I'm not going to fade that out. Okay, a little bit of purple here again. And it's nice because it's wet, it's just going to flow out and on its own there and look really good. There. Probably a little bit now around the edges here. Just a tiny bit here. And just plain water. Just go in and kind of just touch, dab, so that it'll start flowing around and won't have that real strong color going on. I thought it was getting a little carried away right there, so. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just a little bit more up here by the eye. Maybe back into this just a tiny bit. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And now we're going to work on the beak. And I think I'm going to use, this is a cobalt blue. It's one of the tube ones that I bought and put in there. And it's just a little, and it's the Van Gogh. Get a little bit of this out. Start working on his beak. And I didn't mind that this ran up here like that. I didn't even wipe it off because this is going to be real dark in this area, so the yellow didn't matter at all. This would be just the first little bit of this. This is going to be quite dark because in real life they're black. So this is just like a base wash right here. Got a lot of water going on there. Okay. So that we're going to let just dry a little bit before we go back in and work on it. And this is nice, let it just kind of flow up in there and a little bit of a highlight right there. I think that'll look good. And put a little bit more on it, darken it up. Okay. And then up here, we're going to put in some of the pink just lightly. So on this probably have a highlight kind of right in that area, so I won't put it any there. I'll just wash it into it. Gotta be real careful here not to pull this up into it. Okay. A little bit on his mouth there, but that's fine. I want this to be a little darker along this edge here, because it would be like a shadow there where his beak kind of overlaps. So that works for me. I just want to leave that kind of light right here. And I put paint on and take it off a lot. Okay. And this area of his beak is lighter, so I'm going to do just a very light wash of blue up in that area. Very light. And that's even too darker than I want it, so I'm getting just plain water right now. And okay. And that needs to dry a little bit before I work on the eye and before I put any more of the color in. And I think what I'm going to start doing right now is the splatter. I'll put a little definition there, like that big kind of plain blob of color. Break that up a little bit. So this is like lots of water, and I'm going to get a bigger brush because that size 2 isn't going to work for that. And I'm going to use just straight opera rose. My card here, because I don't want it to get on his face where I just did that. And now I just want some bigger blobs of water. I just what paint I had on my brush I left and dipped it right straight in the water. I'm doing these, and that's how I get that more. Now I'm going to put a little more paint on my brush and dip it in the water because I had a big spot there on the other one, and here I want it bigger. And this isn't really big. I want a little more paint to do that. Start doing this in here on his body. Okay, looks like I want a little larger spot there. I mean, you can play with it, and if you do that and you don't like something, you can immediately lift it off. And then if it doesn't come completely off, just use a little bit of water and you can kind of like scrub it up. Alright, I'm going to go with my lemon yellow now because I have some dark, more intense spots here coming off the brush. There. And this, I kind of like don't mind if it gets in there. I'll probably pick a little bit of that up in a minute. And go again. I dipped it straight in the paint and then just a little bit of water. Okay. Pick that up just a bit. Get some orange. I'm not going to go real heavy on that. No, I'm seeing the orange coming up. All right, there we go. And I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go in and touch up his beak again. This time I'm going to use a little bit of purple. Oops, I grabbed some pink. That's okay though. It's a kind of a nice magenta color. And I've got to be careful now where I put my hands because of the, I don't want to hear that speck going up. This is just some purple over the blue. Give it some, darken it a little bit. Oh. I'm going to darken that up with some Payne's Gray, and that's from Van Gogh as well. Now I'm just going to make some lines here. I'm going to go back in with the water and soften that down a little bit. I'm using my number 2 brush again. Whoops, stuck my hand in the paint. I knew I was going to do that. Okay. Okay, and I mean, if you want to work on a highlight, you can just take your damp brush and kind of just pick up, you know, some of the paint if that's where you wanted. Not exactly where I wanted to highlight, but I was just kind of demonstrating that to you. Probably more up here in this area. Now I'll put a little dark back in there. Okay. And I think I'm ready to get out. Oh, I've got a little more pink and yellow, I think, to put up here in this, around this area. His eye. No. Let it down a bit. I'm going to lift some of that out because it's stronger than what I wanted it to be. There we go. And I'm going to do a little bit more of the kind of a pinky orange, I think, right there. Oh, this is pretty. So, a little bit right along here. You can see it kind of made a nice dark curve right there earlier when we were doing it. And this. Okay. Let that kind of blend around there. Just plain water right now, kind of just pulling it out. I don't want to get down too close and make this bleed into it, so I'm being careful right there a little. Just soften that out a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to just do a little bit of the red to darken it up along here. Try it again. Oops, I like to keep sticking my hand in that yellow paint right there. Dab this around here a little bit to darken it. There. Soften that just a tiny bit, just dab it a little. I have a dog barking, I'm sorry. Okay. Now it looks like I gotta use a little red orange right up in here. I want to define his beak area a bit there. I'll probably put some black along that, or the Payne's gray actually. Pink. This is more red than I wanted. I'm going to drop some pink in there because I really love this upper rose. Probably my favorite paint. I'll stab this around a little bit, don't really. Kind of a highlight there, and I think I might hit that with just a tiny bit of the lemon yellow. Not a lot, just a little bit of sunniness right there. I like that. Some right here. Okay. And I think I'm ready to start with the, I think I'm going to put a little more purple here. And here. Okay. Alright, I've got to open up my other paint case because I did not get the Payne's gray out of that. So. I probably won't put it in that case because I would use such a very small amount of it. I'm just putting it in the spot where I mix my purple because I don't mind it at all to mix with that. That's fine with me. Okay. I have a little water up here that I don't want to drip down in this part because I don't want this to blob all over the paper. Lightly. I'm going to go soften that down with just some plain water. Okay. Just define this a little bit around here. And plain water. on in there a little bit. It doesn't have to be. Let that sit there just for a minute, and then I'll soften it up a little bit. I went too far over here. Lightly dabbled away. The dogs are playing. I have a little Shih Tzu, and my daughter has a Shih Tzu. And they're busy fighting over there, play fighting. Alright, now I'm going to soften it out just a tiny bit. Right here. I want it still to be kind of like a line in there. You can see we're running up in here a little, which is fine actually. Okay. To darken this up here a little bit. Not a lot. Like I love watercolor. It just goes so soft when you put water on it. And nice, makes shades easy. Shadows. I just love watercolor. Okay. Now I think we're ready to work on his eye. I'm going to just use straight black, or not black, the Payne's gray on that, but I'm not going to water it down because I don't want it to get all blobby. So sometimes I use a real tiny brush for this. Depends on the size of my painting. Right now I think this is working fine, so that needs to dry just a little bit before I put the yellow in. I'll darken his mouth up a little bit more here. Where his beak touches the other part. Flamingos are so beautiful. I love painting them. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to just grab some orange here while I'm waiting on the eye, and kind of put some in that area. I just thought it needed a little bit of pop right there. Okay. And I'm going to just take a little bit of pink, the Opera Rose. Back to that now. And go along the curve of his head. I'll just turn this because it'll be easier to get at. I'm sorry about my dogs barking. I have one up here being